Most men are taught the same lie. If you say the right things, she'll want you. Compliments, smooth lines, constant talking, explaining yourself, chasing approval. And yet, every man has seen it happen. A woman becomes deeply attracted to a man who barely speaks. He doesn't try, he doesn't impress, he doesn't explain himself. Still, her attention locks onto him like gravity. This is the uncomfortable truth most men don't want to hear. Female desire is rarely triggered by words. In fact, talking too much often kills it. Women don't respond first to what you say. They respond to what you are before you open your mouth. Your presence, your emotional self-control, your certainty, the way you move, pause, and exist without needing validation. Long before conversation begins, her nervous system has already decided whether you are safe, boring, weak, or dangerously interesting. This is controversial because it destroys the idea that attraction is logical or fair. It isn't. Desire is instinctive, it's subconscious, it's biological, and it reacts to signals most men were never taught to develop. Some men unknowingly broadcast strength, calm, and direction simply by how they carry themselves. Others broadcast anxiety, neediness, and insecurity even while saying all the right things. Women don't consciously analyze this, they feel it. This video is not about manipulation. It's about awareness, about understanding the silent signals you're already sending every day, whether you realize it or not. Once you see them, you can no longer unsee them. If you've ever wondered why being nice, honest, or available didn't work, or why women lose interest without being able to explain why, this is where the real answers start. And the most uncomfortable part? The men who trigger desire without saying a word usually aren't trying to attract anyone at all. 1. Silence is more attractive than talking. Most men believe attraction is created by doing more. More talking, more explaining, more proving, more effort. But silence is one of the most misunderstood and powerful triggers of female desire. And that's exactly why it feels uncomfortable to most men. Silence signals confidence. When a man doesn't rush to fill every gap with words, it shows he's not nervous, not desperate for approval, and not afraid of losing attention. He's comfortable with himself. That comfort is felt immediately. Women don't interpret silence as emptiness. They interpret it as depth. Here's the hard truth. Men who talk too much often talk because they're trying to control the outcome. They explain, justify, entertain, and overshare to reduce uncertainty. But desire thrives on tension, not certainty. Silence creates space for curiosity. It gives her mind something to work on. It allows her to project meaning onto you instead of you handing it to her. Silence also communicates emotional strength. A man who can pause, listen, and respond slowly is showing emotional regulation. He's not reactive. He's not thrown off balance easily. This subconsciously tells her, this man can handle pressure. And that's deeply attractive. Another reason silence works is because it reverses roles. When you speak less, she speaks more. When she speaks more, she invests emotionally. And the more she invests, the more attached she feels, without even realizing why. Men who talk nonstop rob women of this process. Important clarification. Silence is not being cold, rude, or withdrawn. It's intentional presence. You're still engaged. You're still attentive. You're just not over-explaining yourself or performing for validation. Most men fear silence because they think it makes them boring. In reality, silence exposes insecurity. Confident men aren't afraid of pauses. They trust their presence is enough. And here's the controversial part. Sometimes the most attractive response is no response at all. Not because you don't care, but because you don't need to prove that you do. 1. Imagine you're on a date and she finishes telling a story. Instead of immediately jumping in with a joke or another story to impress her, you pause, smile slightly, and say calmly, "That's interesting." Then let the silence sit for a moment. She fills it by explaining more, adding emotion, seeking your reaction. In that moment, she is leaning in, not you. Silence doesn't make women lose interest. Silence reveals which men never needed words to begin with. 2. Emotional control triggers desire. Most men think showing emotion means talking about everything they feel. In reality, what triggers female desire is not emotional expression, it's emotional control. A man who can feel deeply but remain steady is far more attractive than a man who reacts to every emotion out loud. Women are highly sensitive to emotional shifts. They notice when a man gets rattled easily, defensive, overly excited, or anxious. These reactions signal instability. On the other hand, emotional control signals strength. It tells her this man is grounded, self-led, and not easily shaken by circumstances or people. Here's the controversial truth. Emotional control is often mistaken for emotional distance, but they are not the same. Emotional distance is avoidance. Emotional control is mastery. It's the ability to stay calm under pressure, to pause before responding, and to choose reactions instead of being controlled by them. When a man maintains emotional control, he becomes unpredictable in a powerful way. She can't read him easily. His mood doesn't rise and fall based on her approval. That creates tension, and tension fuels attraction. Desire doesn't grow in emotional chaos. It grows in emotional contrast. Men who lack emotional control often overshare, seek reassurance, or try to explain themselves when they feel misunderstood. This kills desire because it places emotional responsibility on her. Women don't want to manage a man's emotions. They want to feel safe inside them. Another uncomfortable truth. Being emotionally controlled doesn't mean suppressing emotions. It means processing them internally first. A controlled man doesn't explode, beg, sulk, or emotionally dump. He observes, decides, and responds with intention. This is why arguments, disagreements, or stressful moments often reveal attraction levels. When a man stays calm while others lose composure, he instantly stands out. His presence feels solid, reliable, grounded. Emotional control also creates polarity. She feels more free to express emotion because she senses he can handle it. And paradoxically, the less reactive he is, the more emotionally expressive she becomes. 2. Imagine she cancels plans last minute. Instead of reacting with frustration, sarcasm, or over-texting to hide disappointment, you respond calmly, "No problem, we'll do it another time." Then you return to your day. That calm response communicates confidence, self-respect, and emotional strength without a single explanation. Women don't crave emotional perfection. They crave men whose emotions don't control them. 3. Men who don't seek approval. Win. Most men grow up believing that being liked is the goal, so they learn to agree more, apologize quickly, soften opinions, and constantly adjust themselves to avoid disapproval. It feels polite, it feels safe. But when it comes to attraction, approval seeking quietly destroys desire. Women can sense when a man is performing to be accepted. It shows in how he agrees too fast, laughs too hard, or changes his behavior the moment he feels tension. None of this is fake on purpose. It's insecurity trying to protect itself. And insecurity is loud even when the man thinks he's hiding it. Men who don't seek approval move differently. They speak when they have something to say. They disagree without becoming defensive. They don't rush to explain themselves. That doesn't make them rude. It makes them solid. Their sense of self isn't dependent on how they're perceived in the moment. Here's the uncomfortable part. Approval seeking puts women in a position of power they never asked for. When a man constantly looks for validation, she feels responsible for his emotional state. That pressure drains attraction fast. Desire wants freedom, not obligation. You can relate to this if you've ever felt nervous about sending a text, worried about how something would be interpreted, or replayed conversations in your head trying to fix how you came across. That mental loop isn't care. It's fear of losing approval. And that fear leaks into behavior. Men who stop seeking approval don't become cold or arrogant. They become relaxed. They don't need every interaction to go perfectly. They're okay being misunderstood. They trust that the right people will respond, and the wrong ones will drift away. That calm acceptance is magnetic. Another truth most men avoid. When you don't seek approval, you naturally become selective. You stop chasing, you start choosing. And the moment a man starts choosing, women feel it. He's no longer auditioning. He's evaluating. Approval seeking also kills mystery. When you explain everything, justify every choice, and preemptively apologize, there's nothing left to discover. Desire grows in the unknown, not in overclarity. Men who don't seek approval aren't trying to be impressive. They're trying to be aligned. Their words, actions, and boundaries match, and consistency creates trust, while independence creates attraction. The irony is simple. The less you try to be chosen, the more often you are. Because the men who stop asking for permission to exist are the ones who quietly stand out. Women don't fall for men who need to be liked. They respond to men who already like themselves. 4. Calm confidence beats looks. Let's be honest, too many men hide behind the idea of looks because it gives them an excuse. If I were taller, richer, more handsome, then things would be different. That story is comfortable, but it's also lazy, and it keeps men asleep. Yes, looks matter, but not nearly as much as men think. What actually separates attractive men from forgettable ones is calm confidence, the ability to stay steady, composed, and self-directed regardless of attention or outcomes, and this is where many men fail. Most men are tense, rushed, reactive. Their confidence rises when things go well and collapses when they don't. That's not confidence, that's dependence. Women feel this instantly. A man who looks good but carries anxiety is far less attractive than an average-looking man who is grounded and unbothered. Here's the criticism men need to hear. Scrolling, complaining, and blaming genetics is easier than building inner stability. Calm confidence is developed through discipline, discomfort, and repetition. It comes from handling pressure without losing yourself, not from mirrors or compliments. Calm confidence shows up in posture, eye contact, pacing, and speech. It's the man who doesn't rush his words, who doesn't fidget when attention shifts, who listens fully without needing to interrupt. That presence communicates leadership without trying. Men need to wake up to this truth. Attraction is not about impressing, it's about regulating yourself. If your emotions swing wildly based on how you're received, no amount of looks will save you. Desire doesn't attach to chaos. Another uncomfortable reality: men who rely on looks often avoid growth. They expect attraction to happen automatically. When it doesn't, they become bitter. Calm confidence, on the other hand, is built. It's earned through self-respect, consistency, and responsibility. This isn't about becoming dominant or loud, it's about becoming still. Still under pressure, still in uncertainty, still when outcomes aren't guaranteed. That stillness is rare, and rarity creates value. If you want to be more attractive, stop obsessing over how you look and start mastering how you carry yourself. Your face gets you noticed. Your calm confidence decides whether she stays. Men who refuse to develop inner stability will keep blaming the world. Men who wake up will realize they were the missing piece all along. 5. Unpredictability creates tension. Most men are painfully predictable, and they don't realize how much it costs them. Same reactions, same availability, same emotional patterns, same routines. Predictability feels safe to men, but safety without tension leads to boredom, and boredom kills desire. This is where men misunderstand unpredictability. They think it means being inconsistent, unreliable, or playing games. That's not it. Real unpredictability comes from having your own internal direction, not from trying to confuse someone else. When a man's mood, time, and decisions are always accessible, there's nothing to wonder about. Women don't feel curiosity because they already know what's coming. Desire needs a bit of uncertainty, not chaos, but contrast. Here's the criticism men need to hear. Many of you revolve your schedules around attention. You reply instantly. You cancel your plans. You make yourself endlessly available. That doesn't signal interest. It signals lack of purpose. And lack of purpose is unattractive. Unpredictability means she can't fully map you, not because you're hiding, but because you're living. Your life has momentum. You don't explain every move. You don't ask permission to prioritize your time. That independence creates tension without effort. Men also confuse being consistent with being emotionally flat. Consistency should be about values, not behavior. You can be reliable without being boring, but that requires men to stop outsourcing excitement to women and start creating it in their own lives. Another uncomfortable truth: men who fear losing interest try to control outcomes. They lock things down too fast, define everything early, and remove all mystery. But desire grows in open space, not in emotional contracts. Wake up to this. Unpredictability isn't something you perform, it's something you embody when your life doesn't revolve around validation. When you stop centering attention as your reward, you naturally become harder to predict. This doesn't mean disappearing or acting cold. It means being unavailable sometimes, emotionally steady always, and self-directed consistently. Men who are too predictable feel safe but forgettable. Men who have direction create tension, and tension is where desire lives. 6. Purpose makes men magnetic. Most men say they want purpose, but very few actually live with one. Instead, they drift. Days blend together, goals are vague, effort is inconsistent, and then they wonder why attraction feels forced or fragile. This is one of the hardest truths to accept. Men without direction are easy to ignore. Purpose doesn't mean having everything figured out. It means moving towards something that matters to you, even while uncertain. Women can feel this movement. A man with purpose carries weight in his actions. He's not just reacting to life, he's shaping it. You can relate to this if you've ever felt more confident during a phase when you were focused. Gym progress, a business idea, a skill you were sharpening, a personal mission. You didn't need to try harder socially. People responded differently because you were different. Men without purpose often become relationship-centered. They look to women for motivation, validation, and emotional direction. That's a heavy role to place on someone. Desire fades when a woman senses she's become the man's main source of meaning. Purpose also creates boundaries. When you care deeply about something, your time becomes valuable. You stop over-explaining why you're busy. You stop apologizing for choosing yourself. That self-respect is quietly attractive. Another relatable truth: when a man lacks purpose, he fills the gap with distractions, endless scrolling, complaining, short-term pleasures. None of these build presence. They dull it, and dulled men feel invisible. Purpose sharpens a man. It aligns his habits, energy, and identity. He becomes more decisive because his decisions serve something bigger than immediate comfort. That decisiveness shows up in conversation, posture, and how he handles uncertainty. Men often think attraction comes from being entertaining. In reality, attraction comes from being directed. A man moving toward something creates emotional gravity. Others naturally want to orbit around momentum. You don't need status, money, or perfection to have purpose. You need commitment, the willingness to choose a path and walk it daily, even slowly, even imperfectly. When you live with purpose, you stop chasing attention because your life already has meaning. And the less you chase, the more magnetic you become. Women don't fall for men who need to be inspired. They respond to men who are already in motion. 7. Detachment is misread as strength. This is one of the most misunderstood dynamics in attraction, and most men experience it without realizing what's happening. Detachment is often labeled as not caring, being cold, or being emotionally unavailable. But that's not what women are responding to. What they feel is strength. Detached men are not indifferent. They're unhooked. Their sense of self doesn't rise or fall based on attention, reactions, or outcomes, and that creates a powerful emotional signal. This man is complete on his own. You can relate to this if you've ever noticed that the moment you stopped caring so much about replies, outcomes, or impressions, interactions suddenly became easier. You were lighter, less tense, more present. That wasn't coincidence. That was detachment removing pressure. Most men attach too quickly. They mentally lock onto outcomes. They need things to go a certain way to feel okay. That attachment shows up as overthinking, over-texting, and emotional investment before trust is built. Women feel that weight immediately. Detachment removes that weight. A detached man enjoys connection but doesn't cling to it. He appreciates interest but doesn't depend on it. He's okay if things continue and okay if they don't. That emotional self-sufficiency is rare, and rarity creates value. Here's the criticism men need to hear. Many of you confuse attachment with sincerity. You think caring more will make you more attractive. In reality, caring too early often communicates insecurity, not depth. Desire needs space to breathe. Detachment also creates clarity. When you're not emotionally desperate for a result, you see people more accurately. You stop projecting fantasies. You stop ignoring red flags. You choose instead of chase. That shift alone changes how you're perceived. This doesn't mean becoming distant or unavailable. It means staying grounded, engaged but not consumed, interested but not dependent, calm even when things are uncertain. Men who are detached don't rush emotional milestones. They don't force labels, explanations, or constant reassurance. They let things unfold naturally. That patience is often interpreted as confidence because confident men don't hurry. 7. Think about a time when you had options: work, goals, friends, direction. You weren't checking your phone every minute. You weren't anxious about responses. You showed up as yourself and let things happen. That version of you felt stronger, didn't it? That's detachment at work. Women don't desire men who need certainty. They respond to men who are steady even without it. Conclusion. Here's the truth most men don't want to hear. Being nice or good is not attractive. In fact, it's often the fastest way to become invisible. Society teaches men that being respectful, agreeable, and overly accommodating will win affection. But attraction doesn't follow kindness. It follows presence, confidence, and emotional gravity. Women feel desire, not logic. They respond to signals, not words. A man who is calm, purposeful, and detached triggers feelings that no compliment, gift, or smooth line can ever create. That's why some men barely try and still leave women thinking about them for days, while other men work themselves to exhaustion and get nothing in return. This is controversial because it challenges everything we've been told about relationships. It's uncomfortable, even infuriating for some, because it shifts responsibility from external actions to internal mastery. Desire isn't about doing more for her, it's about being more of yourself in the right way. It's about mastering presence, tension, and direction, often without speaking a single word. I want you to pause for a second and think, how often have you tried to impress or explain yourself only to feel like it didn't work? That's because you were relying on the wrong tools. Words, effort, and niceness are secondary to who you are when no one is watching. I want to hear from you. Comment below with your experiences, the times when you noticed attraction without explanation, or the moments you tried too hard and it failed. I'll personally read your stories and reach out because this isn't just theory, it's a conversation we need to have. We can uncover what actually works together. And here's your cliffhanger for the next video. In the next one, we'll break down the single invisible trait that makes women instantly obsessed. And it's something most men don't even realize they have. You won't want to miss it.